Right, so today what we're going to be making is this vertical pathway block. There are 2 vertical pathway blocks required for the full project. You're allowed to make as many or as few as you want. There'll be some options later on. Now, the vertical pathway block is very similar to the horizontal pathway block. In fact, you could almost say they're identical in every respect, except for one is vertical and one is horizontal. We've got a pathway through the middle of both, but one, the knitting goes vertical, and the other one, the knitting goes parallel. Of course, you can just do the parallel ones if you want and then turn your squares when you're making your final product, but I don't want to do that, so we're going to make this one here, which is our vertical pathway. Now, this is made with 40 stitches, and with our 40 stitches what we're going to do is we're going to start by casting on. Now, what we're actually going to do is a little bit tricky. Well, it's not really tricky, it's just more fiddly than we've been dealing with so far, because our colour work is vertical this time rather than horizontal. So we're going to cast on 13 stitches, then we're going to cast on 14 stitches, then we're going to cast on 13 stitches. And we're going to do this in the gold or the tan or the green or whatever shade you've decided to use for the sides of your pathways. You can choose to use any colour you want. I've gone with this sort of mustardy colour. This is not the same shade as our hay bale blocks. The cat is being very annoying. This grey for the pathway that's only being used for the pathway at this point, and then some more of the mustard on the side. So I'm going to cast on, and we're going to have a look at what that looks like. So for this, what I'm choosing to do is I'm going to be using, without showing you the brand name, because who cares what the brand name of this yarn is. This is just a really cheap wool yarn. It's a locally made yarn, but it's a cheaper one. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with one of our gold shades. Yes, cat. Yes. The cat's discovered that we've got cat milk, and the cat milk has got catnip in it. And now I think we've discovered that we've got the cat absolutely hooked on cat milk, for better or for worse. So we've got 4, 5. Now, you can use any cast on method you like. I just use this standard cable cast on. I've heard it called the knit on cast on as well recently. I've always known it as a cable cast on, but you can choose to use the long tail cast on if you're good at it. I don't have the coordination for the long tail cast on. I find I never know what to do with my thumbs. This is just my standard cast on that I use for pretty much everything. So this should be 13 stitches. So we've got 5, we've got 5, we've got 3. And now I'm going to pick up this grey yarn tail, and I'm going to cast on 14 stitches in grey while the dog wonders why the cat's not getting treats. Because sometimes the cat doesn't drink all the milk, and then the dog gets to have the dregs, and he thinks all of his Christmases have come at once because he's not usually allowed cat food. Mostly because he'll try and steal the cat food. The cat doesn't tend to like to eat as much as the dog does, because he's a beagle and the cat's a cat. You didn't come here for dog and cat content, or to realise just how bendy my needles have become recently, because these are very old needles that I've been using for this project, because I prefer to use short needles when making squares. We've got 5, we've got 10, we've got 12, 2 more grey, and then we're going to go with our second ball of yellow, or this mustardy colour, and I'm going to cast on 13 here. So you can choose to just cast on in one colour if you like, but I'm finding that the colours running for the pathway to the edges of the block are actually really cute. So that's what I've chosen to do. There are 3 pathway blocks total in this project. There are three horizontal pathways that you're going to need, or pathway 1. There are 2 pathway 2s, or vertical pathways, and there are 2 to come. So what we've got here is we've got 5, we've got 10, we've got 11, 12, 13. Okay, so for the first 5 rows of this pattern, we are just going to knit all of our stitches. That's going to give us this section here. You may notice that I said 5 rows, not 4, because our first row of the actual pattern here is just straight knit stitches all the way across. So we're going to do 5 rows. When we get to the colour change, we're just going to change to that colour yarn. It may involve twisting your yarns around each other when you get to them. Sometimes you will have already done a twist on the row before, and that's fine, and other times you'll realise that you need to do a twist. So when we get here, you'll see what I mean. So we're going to get to this grey stitch here. Now we're going to put down our yellow, but in putting down our yellow, we're just going to pick up this grey and make sure that the grey has caught this yellow stitch here. And then we're just going to continue knitting across in grey on these 14 grey stitches. Now I will tell you, this is going to get your yarn balls in a tangle. So as long as you're not stressy about that, you're going to be fine. This is not a particularly difficult block, but if you are worried about the vertical stripe, you are allowed to make more horizontal ones and then just turn them around. It's your blanket. There are no knitting police. So we've done our 14 in grey. Now we're going to knit this yellow one here. So we're going to take our grey yarn and we're going to make sure it passes over our gold. Actually, this is mustard. And then we're going to continue to the end. And we're going to do just like that for 5 rows. So I'm going to do these 5 rows off camera, and then we're going to rejoin for the centre section. And we're going to see how we go. It's not a complicated pattern at all. You're going to be fine. Right, there we go. 1 row done. I will do the next 4 knit rows and then rejoin you here. Right, so we've completed our first 5 rows here, and what we've got is you'll see that these yarns here have been wrapped around on the back side. As we've done for all the other squares, what we're going to do, oh, she says flying the needle off the table. We are going to knit the first 4, or in the case that, you know, slip the first stitch, knit the next 3. Now we're going to purl across to the grey. So here we go, purling across to the grey. When we get to the grey, what we're now going to do is we're going to wrap our yarns so that we're carrying on with the grey here. And we're going to go into a knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, right across that grey. When we get to the end of the grey, we're bringing our yarn back in behind, and we're going to notice how tangled our yarn's getting, and we're going to wrap this mustardy colour around. We're going to purl across to the last 4 stitches. It's the sound of knitting needles. So we get to the last 4 stitches. We're going to knit these last 4. All right, so when we turn this over and we get to the other side, you'll see that we've got the start of our pathway forming, and we've got these purl stitches and our edge stitch that we've had on all of our blocks so far. So on the right side, slip 1, knit 3, that gives us our border, knit all the way across to the grey section. When we get to the grey section on the knit side, what we're going to do is just match the stitch that's here, because this is going to be alternating blocks of knit 2, purl 2 over a 2-row period. So we're now going to wrap our yarn. So we're going to wrap the grey around the gold, or the mustard there, bring our grey forward. We're going to start with purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, get confused as to why the cat's being so bossy now that I'm filming. Typical. Yes, cat. Knit 2, purl 2, yarn in behind, and we're going to wrap the gold yarn around it, or this mustard colour, and we're going to knit to the end, because all of these stitches are knit. It's really just knit to the last 4 and then knit the last 4 is a more accurate way of describing it, so that we know that we've got our border stitches on there. So every time we're on the right side, all we're doing is matching up our bumps in the road. Oh, matching our bumps in the road feels like a metaphor. Have you heard that phrase, matching your energy? It seems to be something that seems to be going around with the young'uns a lot these days. Anywho, we're on our back side. This side will be the last row, I think, that we'll do together for this block. So we're going to slip 1, knit 3. That gives us our border. We now purl across to the grey. Oh, we're just not going to split that yarn there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now we're going to do the opposite. So the last time we were on this row, we knit 2. This time we're going to purl 2. So we're going to wrap our grey yarn around the mustard. We're going to give it a little tighten, and then we're going to purl 2, and we're going to knit 2. We're going to purl 2, and then we're going to knit 2. Purl 2, and then knit 2. And then finally, purl 2. Get rid of our big tangle at this point. Wrap our mustard coloured yarn around the grey. Purl to the last 4. Oh, we've got a big tangle. Big tangle. This tangling for me happens something chronic. Every couple of rows, just stop and untangle your yarns. It's fine. My yarn tails are quite long as well, which doesn't help. They're getting tangled up in it. Last 4 stitches, we're just going to knit them. 2, 3, 4. And that's it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue this pattern as we'll have a look on our... Here's one I prepared earlier. So here's our one that we prepared earlier. I say we as though you were here earlier. We've cast on at this edge, and we've got our border going all the way around. Our right side's got knit stitches all the way through, and our wrong side's got purl stitches all the way through on the mustard. Then we've got these alternating knit 2, purl 2 blocks. These are just a 2 rows of each, and then we repeat it over. So it's a 4-row repeat, but it's 2 rows to make the little squares all the way through. Now we're going to do this all the way up until row 55 or 55. Yes, row 55. On row 55, when we get to this grey section, we're not going to do the pattern. We're just going to hit purl. We're going to purl the grey and purl the gold all the way across. Then we've got 4 knit rows where we're just going to continue the colour swaps, and then we're casting off. So we've still got 60 rows in total. We've got 40 stitches, 60 rows in total. The only difference between anything going up through here is that row 55 we are purling this section here, and then we're just knitting the last 4 rows and casting off. And that is the end of our vertical pathway, or pathway 2 block. Come back tomorrow and we're going to be working on pathway 3. That's a spoiler for you. So same colorway but a slightly different pathway tomorrow. So what we're going to do right now, finish off your block. You need 2 pathway 2s or 2 vertical pathways for the finished project, or if you just make one, you can make project 1 with all the things that we've got. All right, I shall see you tomorrow.